set us running in the wrong direction. Yet there are many who live differently. Why? Because they understand who is roaring. The Apostle Peter pinpointed the source. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. 1 Peter 5, 8-9. Satan roars at us from the headlines and the front lines, yet he is weak and cannot win the fight when believers turn toward him in the power of Christ the victor. The people you'll meet in Standing in the Fire are believers who have caught on to the devil's strategy and won't fall for it. They've seen the worst his minions can throw at the world, and they're not leaving the scene, no matter how hot the fire gets. Their courage and faith through unthinkable confrontations with radical Islam is inspiring. Standing in the Fire is a collection of true accounts of courageous Christians facing down the enemies who appear in today's top news stories. As with my two previous books, Dreams and Visions and Killing Christians, names, locations, and other identifying details have been changed to protect these current-day heroes of our faith, but their stories are real. So real that you will likely evaluate your own life by comparison and maybe discover that you've been running in the wrong direction and need to make a U-turn. Jesus predicted the mess the world is in, so the current state of things should not really surprise any of us. Christian persecution is at an all-time high. Yet if you're like me, the reality continues to shock you. As a new believer in high school, I fell in love with Jesus and began to devour his word. One of my first stops was the book of Acts. As I read, I envisioned myself as one of the disciples spreading the gospel around the known world, and I vividly remember thinking, I'm glad the Roman Empire collapsed and we live in a more civilized world now. Thank you, Lord, that all that persecution is over and done with. But whatever made me think that persecution is off the table? Jesus clearly promised it to his followers. Even secular news now regularly covers the growing inhumane treatment of Christians around the world. But as followers of Christ, the message of love he has given us to take to the world should never be daunted by fear. If so, we're running instead of standing. I believe it's time for Christ followers to stand firm and no longer run away because our enemy is the one who wants us to run. During the Babylonian captivity, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego stood confident before King Nebuchadnezzar, whom they refused to worship, even though he threatened to send them to a horrifying death. They had no guarantees that God would intervene. Yet just knowing the God we serve is able to deliver us was enough for them. And their trust in the God of Israel, while at the same time having no fear of the king of the great Babylonian Empire, caused Nebuchadnezzar to lose it and unravel before their eyes. In a raging fit, he had the three young Hebrews bound with heavy clothes, tied up, and thrown into a fire that killed the soldiers who tossed them into the blazing incinerator. But soon the king would see that the three men were not alone. Neither are Jesus followers of today, who right now stand in the fiery furnace of Islamic terrorism in the Middle East. Jesus is with them, and he gives them the reason and the courage to stand. They have learned in the fire, and they have much to share with you. Jesus has made available to you the same courage to face down your fears. Today's world is violent and pitted against those who follow Jesus, and it's not going to change in our lifetime. But we know the end of the story, and in order to live life full throttle for God, we must say goodbye to fear and look with hope to the future. After all, Jesus is coming back, and how do you want him to find you? Shaking like a leaf or standing strong in him, come hell or high water? In Killing Christians, I introduced you to Farid, who lives in Syria, in the midst of the world's most feared killing machine, ISIS. Yet if you met him today, you would be shocked because he appears to live with less stress than you and I do in the relative safety of America. His heart overflows with peace, and a contagious, memorable smile always shines despite his